Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Ashish Mohindru, and welcome to another episode of Business Innovation Series with Oracle Apex. Today, we have a very special guest, Dan Larsson. He's the founder and CEO of Kemdb. It's a firm that actually does very important work in terms of providing information of all the chemicals that are embedded in our day-to-day devices. And if any of them are actually harmful to you, they help us identify those devices and get them eliminated from our daily use. With that, I'd like to welcome Dan Larsson. Dan, welcome to Business Innovation Series with Apex.
Thank you, Ashish.
So Dan, tell us a little bit about Kemdb, your mission, and what does Kemdb really do?
The purpose with Kemdb is to create a solution for small companies to comply with chemical regulations and make their workplace safer. The existing solutions are usually built for bigger companies where they have more resources. And for me, I think to target the ones that really need it the most, we need to think different. We need to have a different business model because usually when economics is sparse, you don't have the resources. Some of these things is the first thing you start losing focus on, because usually you have to use all your time for the main your main purpose in your company. So to repair cars, build houses, and such as this.
Fantastic. So how did you come about this? Like, how did you get started on this mission? What was the challenge that you uncovered that kind of drove you to create Kemdb and to kind of bring out this information for consumers and users?
My background is myself from driving trucks and garages and stuff, and I had a job later on in my career in a workplace where I was looking so that we was compliant with the chemicals, and I didn't find any solution that was I should have used myself in my younger years. They were so complex and not suited for the working class.
Interesting. So when, as an average consumer, before Kemdb or as a company, how would I get this information? Where was this information available? Or could I even get this information anywhere?
The information is in something called safety data sheets, PDF files. And in the beginning, it was actually papers, and it was maybe 1 page or something, 2 pages. But the compliance regulations are so much harder now. So now they are maybe 15 pages. And also the companies maybe have 200, 300 chemicals used. And this amount of data in a paper format, no one is able to have this kind of without control of this, without a system guiding them, helping them. Because they also, every year, it's new rules and new regulations you have to take into consideration. So it's a very complex thing. And the system that was available targeted the companies with more resources, both in internal resources, but also economical resources. So using all the PDF files and sending data, if you think that one end user has 200 chemicals, and then you have the store that he bought it from, and then you have the supplier, and then you have the importer, and the amount of papers, PDF papers sent through the supply chain is astonishing. And for me, it's very strange that no one tries to actually solve this, because sending data it's like almost like sending them in an envelope instead of having an API by between systems. So my thinking that this should be possible to do this much more efficient when data is provided to the end user, what they need and easy to get to.
Fantastic. And now, does this vary by country as well? Like, is the regulation different in every country, or is there a global standard for this where information is detailed in a certain format? Or does Kemdb help rationalize this, or are you just focused on one country to begin with?
It's very similar in many places of the world, but my specialty is European legislations. So Kemdb is used right now in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And there are also some or a lot of national additions. It's not one legislation, it's a lot of them that is overlapping. It's you have the chemical legislation, and you have the workplace safety legislation, and you have a lot of things that overlaps a bit. And for example, transportation, you have ADR, that is the regulations for how we can transport chemicals. So the chemical legislation is the most complex legislation in Europe.
Very interesting. And so what you're doing is you're taking these hundreds or even thousands of pages of PDFs with details about these chemicals and these products, and then you're basically rationalizing the data, porting that data into a database, and then building analytics on top of it or applications on top of that. So can you talk a little bit about that journey? What's your path towards it? What kind of architecture are you building? And then what compelled you to kind of move towards low code versus doing it with traditional high code?
One of my last tasks on my previous employer was to look at this compliant, so that we was internally compliant. But for me, this thing with scalability, if I do it, I work in a centralized distributor center and extract the information from the PDF files and store this in our internal systems. For me, it was, why don't we share this to our customers? It is added value as a distributor. And that was what I was stumbling on when looking at other providers. They want to lock the information, that is safety information, in and sell it as many times as possible. What I wanted to do is centralize it and use it as an added value for the distributor. So in the beginning, I started with for internal, just using Excel and links and try to update what dates. But pretty soon I noticed that Excel was not good, and I looked at Access was the next thing I looked at, but it was difficult to get something to work. And I tried, I think it was 13 different kind of ways of trying to solve this, because I was so sure in my head that I think this is the way in the future, that if we have, now it's 900 companies using Kemdb, why should these 900 and everyone sit and extract this information when we can provide this? So I have clear in my mind how it should work. So trying all of these things, but it was always something that you couldn't manage files right, or some other place that was users, the cost of the system depending on the users. But I have users that maybe log in 1 or 2 times a year, so it was very expensive. So when I found Oracle Apex, there was so many things that just clicked. User management, I can build my own user management. It was a hardware who restricted me in this, so it was much easier for me, and I can rely on if someone else say, okay, we will double the price for the users in this. There was usually many different kind of users and stuff, and I had a broken product directly if they do something like this, because I wanted this kind of data to be free. So building my own user management system was one thing. The other thing was that the data was in a SQL file. This is important data. This is legislated. That I cannot lose the data for my customers. It will be a terrible thing. So when in Apex, we have the data in the Oracle database. It's a SQL database. And as long as I do my backups on this and take care of this, I saw no risk. I can always just extract the data, and it is not lost. Or I can build another system. If I was scared that Apex would not be around, it could be for some reason, I can always build another application towards the SQL database. And the other solutions I looked at, they say, yeah, we can maybe extract the data, but it was that was one thing that put me towards Apex. It was very relaxing to know that I have the SQL database here stored locally on my computer as a backup.
Fantastic. Now, do you like, and for our audience, so how does that process work? Because you have all this information that's residing in these PDF files, as you mentioned earlier, then how do you extract that information and pour that into the Apex database? What is that process like? Do you have a utility that you built for it? So can you kind of describe that a little bit?
We build a special utility, and it is a complex part. We have to provide this. We use Python script and different kind of techniques for extracting data, and it is very strange because this information is for safety. It's legally obliged that you provide it, but still it's locked in. People are like locked PDF files and lots of these things to make it harder to extract information. It's very strange thinking on my, because if I get something in my, it's no matter how the information is in place, the information needs to be there. So we build this Python script that extracts this information from that and store them in a CSV file that we just import in Apex. We have an API also, but usually I want to look at the Excel file because sometimes they do small changes in the structure of the PDF files, and then I have to catch these things. But that is the outside of Apex functionality.
Fantastic. This is great. So this is your custom scripting that you've written, and that's kind of your IP. To be able to extract information from PDF and put that into the CSV files. Now, how often does the data get updated? Is it on weekly, monthly, yearly basis, or is it a one-time extract? Can you talk a little bit about that?
There are actually not by legislation, not by the European legislation, any rule, but it's recommended that every 2 years it should be updated. But the things that usually happens is that some changes in the regulations, they are so frequent. So if there are some changes and you have to, maybe one substance was not restricted 2 years ago and now it's restricted, and then you have to show more of the content of the chemical products, and you have to put different labels and stuff. So usually it's very frequent, and some suppliers have procedures where there are very frequent, maybe just a couple of months between, and some use maybe 4 or 5 years. So it's very different, but it is no strict rule.
Fantastic. And then once you have the data in the CSV file, it's very easy for it to be automated, the process to automate and be imported into the Apex platform on which you build your own application. So can you talk about a little bit of the application, what the application does, and maybe you can even show us what that application looks like?
The application is to make the information available and because of our business model is different, so we use open data. Our purpose is to our customers, the suppliers, that we have as small hurdles as possible for their end users to get for information. So that was a thing that helped me very much with the development, because we have no very little information in the application that is not accessible by other users. It's actually only the other users' email addresses. That is the only restricted thing that we. So using this, that makes the development of the application so much simpler. So that is the one of our benefits for the business model.
Very nice. Do you want to, can you show us the application as well?
Yes, I can show something. And
And while you're showing that, this is the application that your customers will be using as well, are using today, like the 900 organizations you talked about earlier. This is the
yeah,
interface that they engage with. Okay.
so this is used by, and it's different times of year, it's different amounts of users. Because January, February is usually most. It could be up to 80 companies a day, something like this. Some times of year it's less than one company per day, but I think on average it's around 25 users per day.
Fantastic.
And one thing with Kemdb is, for this is first slide there, the balancing act, because what makes it easy is the open data. What makes it hard is the balancing act, because we want to make it so easy for the end users. We want to remove every hurdle from them. But the legislation is saying that you have to have this knowledge in your company for users, so that they have to have the understanding of in what way their chemicals is dangerous. So the balancing here is removing as much as possible, but not removing so much so that it is taking from, so it's not acceptable by the regular governing people.
Okay.
So the first thing we have here, open data, show you a little bit here, just the regular download functionality, just because you can go, you don't even have to be a user. You have to just go to the page and download most of the data in the application. It's pretty unique, but that is because we really don't want someone struggling finding a password when they need information about how to protect someone who have swallowed a dangerous substance or something.
Okay.
And this is the chemical list. The main purpose of having accounts in Kemdb is that you should be able to save your work, because you don't want to start from scratch every time.
Great.
And we have created a search function that is one of our main functionality, and we looked a lot about how to create this. This is also in the same spirit. How can we do it as simple as possible? But when you have a canister or something in your shelf, maybe you cannot see what the label and stuff like this. So we used an interactive report where you can filter on brands, and you can search from parts of the product name, small things like if they're, this is called the brake clean or something, and you misspell it or something like this. It's pretty smart to be able to search for part of the product name and stuff like this.
Okay.
And I took some video examples here. If you have a product list, because this is one of the first thing that takes time for them. If I have 300 products, how can I do it? So we have here a functionality for uploading a article number list, and we match it to the products that is in the application. So if they have this, they can see this product is in Kemdb, and these are not. So here we do with an interactive grid, we compare their list of products to our list of products. And it is some complexity, because some article numbers have the same product, and some product have multiple PDF files. For example, some glues has two canisters. But here I uploaded to my list. So the purpose is here to show how easily you can add a big amount of products. Now I have just a small list, but you can have a couple of hundreds products like this. And then we have a created a search function that is one of our main functionality, and we looked a lot about how to create this. This is also in the same spirit. How can we do it as simple as possible? But when you have a product list, because this is one of the first thing that takes time for them. If I have 300 products, how can I do it? So we have here a functionality for uploading a article number list, and we match it to the products that is in the application. So if they have this, they can see this product is in Kemdb, and these are not. So here we do with an interactive grid, we compare their list of products to our list of products. And and the links in the middle is small things that we thought of from the beginning that disturb me when talking with the big brands, that if you have a safety data sheet, why do you not have a link that always point to the newest version? Why should people need to download the PDF files and go to their own system and upload the PDF files and use these manual things? Because many of these products sells in maybe 10,000 customers. 10 minutes per 10,000 customers, it's a lot of time. It's so wasteful. Why don't you use links in a smarter way? So here the links is always the same. So if I send this an email with the link here to colleague or something, there will always point to the newest safety data sheet.
Fantastic. And one of the questions while it's showing this, Dan, first of all, this is all the Apex platform this is the application, right? Built on Apex. The second question is, where do you get the original PDF documents from? So you talked about all these chemicals and you want to have details about them. So where do you get those PDF documents and how do you know which ones to get?
It is legislated that the people that sell chemicals to business customers, you have to provide these things. In the beginning, they were sent by a regular mail. Then with the PDF files, they started to send them by email. But it is not very long ago since there was just regular mail. So it's a very, very old technique, but it's legislated. But I think my guess is that maybe 10% of the companies that have to do this actually do it. And this is also functionality that we will not show because this is for a user account, but for distributors, this is much more functionality where you can upload your sales data or upload either by file or by API. You can provide this information. Then this platform every week will send out emails to every customer that's bought this product for each supplier. So I send between 3,000 and 4,000 mails per week, and that this indicates, because in many of these is 3, 4, 5 products in a list, and that everything of this should be manually before. So it is a lot of work.
Yeah, this is great. So did you, for talking about email, were you able to use, did you use an integrated capabilities of Apex for email, or what system are you using for email?
It's built in Apex.
Fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
We have built also custom solutions in other platforms where we build the users can go in and create their own templates, but in Apex we have a simple solution.
Fantastic. So how do companies subscribe to this application with Kemdb? If I'm an organization interested in using this tool, how do I do that?
This is the simplest and the hardest question for me always, because it's very easy to create an account. Anyone can go there and you can create an account. It's no.
So Kemdb.com. So you
yeah.
need to go to Kemdb.com to create an account. Okay.
Yeah. And what's visible here, this is a simple account that is no payment. So they asked me, but is there no payment at all? But the purpose with this is the suppliers pay for their products. So if I have a small company, I buy chemicals from 5 different sources, and I want to have a service like this, but I think maybe $4,000 $3,000 per year is too expensive for my little company. So then I want to use this, and the purpose then is that if they use Kemdb, that maybe the cost for them is not using these 5 sources of chemicals. Maybe they focus all their purchases from one of these suppliers, the supplier that uses Kemdb. So the purpose is actually Kemdb is a sales tool actually. So for the distributors that provide these products, that pay for the products in the application, their sales go up when the end users prioritize their chemicals. So that's the business model. So every time they log in and create an account, but don't I have to pay? No, you don't have to pay, but unless you want to have your own chemicals that no one else uses,
Fantastic. Great. And then in regards to the application development process, Dan, how long did it take for you to build this platform?
I build this all the time. I never stop building this because this is my main thing. And should I recreate it right now, it would be much faster. But this was also the first thing I built, and I've learned a lot since this. So I built a number of applications after this, parallel to this, and some of them have been used by 600 companies, some of the 50 companies, and we have some really big project in development right now. So comparing to this, I rather want to talk about these things that I built later if we talk about how long time it takes, because I built an application in 2 months that has been used for several years by many hundreds of companies. So that is the amazing thing. I had 3 months deadline, and I built it in 2 months, and it was used for, I think, three years without change.
And you're talking about building these on Oracle Apex.
Yeah, of course. It's everything. Oracle Apex is the thing that has enabled me to do everything I do right now. Because I'm not a developer. I have no knowledge. I have some logical thinking, and I've learned some stuff. Right now, I do maybe 50% of my development myself, and I do 50% of the other 50% is freelance developer that I have had for many years. Amazing guys that is both friends and good developers.
Great. And what is your background then, Dan?
I was born in a small village, and in that village, almost everyone except me that started working with their fathers. I instead start working with my mother's brother. So it was almost the same. Everyone started working around the forestry machines or stuff like this, driving trucks or stuff like this. So that was my first years, but I miss a little bit of the social life in working in big places. So I moved and started working at KJ Knutson with the compliance questions mentioned before. So that is my background. So I have no formal training. I've learned myself all the time. And that was also one thing with Apex that was kept my attention from the beginning. That I had started working with Excel. I told you, when I can just upload that Excel sheet into Apex, and I had an application that was very helpful from the first step. That is something I want to take in with me into Kemdb. That the first step should be very light, not big hurdles to get started, get some value directly. Then you can have much more complexity later on, but the feeling of getting, oh wow, this helped me directly. I just had 5 minutes into this, and I have solved some of my issues.
Great. So Dan, it seems like you didn't have any formal actually programming skills before you started using Apex. How easy or hard was it for you to kind of learn about Apex and build your applications?
If you're talking about learn about it was existent, I struggled a lot before I found it. But when I found it, it was almost instantly. I found, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do everything of these things I told you about before. Managing the users, that it was actually maybe the hardest thing for me, but I noticed I can do everything. And for every version of Oracle Apex, I see it's getting better and better and easier to use also. I think I started with version 5 something.
Long time ago.
So it was even for someone who has not. I have a very big interest in computers, but no formal training, and just small courses in programming, but not something that was used in this occasion.
Fantastic. Now, did you you talked about Kemdb? You built one of these applications for these chemical repository and access. What's next? Where are you? What else are you working on? What else are you building with Apex? You want to share that with our audience?
Yeah, we have a very interesting thing going on. I think I told you before, in Kemdb we had the safety data sheets. As I will share the screen if it's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We had the safety data sheets that would describe what substances that are inside the product, and some much other information also. But if we look at product that is not chemicals, like a bicycle or something like this, a guitar or something like this, it's much harder, because first you have they are not homogeneous. So in the bicycle, the tires is one compound, and the spokes are one mix of aluminium or stuff like this. So it's very hard, and in a pretty simple product, it could be easily hundreds of chemicals. If you look at the electronics, it's a lot. So this is not solved. I think it's the main, if we want to work for sustainability and circularity, one of the big hurdles is that we cannot remanufacture using products that is, we don't know if it contains dangerous chemicals. So if you want to take plastics as an example, we send much of plastic back to the plants where they try to extract. Only 10% of the plastic that is sent back to the plants could be used. And one big part of this is that we cannot be sure that it is not filled with some kind of chemicals. So my goal with this other project is create a way to collect and distribute this kind of information through the supply chain. So we have this application called Kemdb right now, but here this is a graph database instead of a relationship database, and this is a guitar, and this is the products, and this is the substances. This is a very simplified view, and here we have restriction lists. So we can see in this guitar we had some substances that is restricted in restriction lists. PFAS is very top of mind right now.
Yeah.
And this is how it looks in Apex. We have the same guitar here. Every red one is products. If we click this one, this is active now. We can see the information about this one, and we can see what kind of substances that are in this. We can attach links or documents. We have a get in and stuff like this, and we can add parts or add substances here. If we do this, it instantly adds into the graph database. So
very cool. Very cool.
This is in a preview, we can see the same kind of thing. And we can add substances here by searching for current substances, but we can also save new ones. Every day, there are 14,000 different CAS numbers. This is the CAS number. This is the like identification number of substances. So it is a lot of substances.
Wow.
This is another page. When we collect this kind of information, we can also collect that the aluminium came from a factory there, and it's sent to the one that manufacturers the wheel, for example, or in this by train and road between them, we transport them. Then we can get CO2 equivalent. We can calculate how much carbon oxide is sent out by the aluminium, the train transport and the road transport. We can see it's a big difference, for example, here. And we can group them by this substance, because everything is a substance. And we can also do the same thing in how it's processed. If we process the aluminium in one way, like melting or something, we can know how much energy is used for melting aluminium, 1 kilo of aluminium, and we know how the amount is used in one skateboard. So we can do a pretty good estimate of the CO2. So here is, for this example, this is just made up data, but we can see that maybe wood, the road transport of wood is the thing we maybe should focus on lowering. So
this is really cool. So you're actually able to measure the environmental impact of these different substances and products, and you're able to track that, and then we can optimize based on what's the best way to transport them while lowering the overall CO2 emissions. This is a very, very innovative, very cool application.
Thanks. It's very hard, this thing, and I see when it is a complex problem, usually sometimes people are dividing it up in different branches, but I think they forget, because we have to think about who will be the part that needs this information. So if you have a manufacturer, maybe they create a small aluminium thing, and what substances are inside this, and they are expert on this little product. But then they are sent to maybe an exporter, then an importer, then a distributor, then a store, and to the end users. And then when they scrap them, that is the purpose. The purpose is that when you scrap them, you have to know that's one of the purposes. There's a lot of purposes, but so if the expert is in the first step, but the distributor is maybe have 1 million product IDs, and they are maybe they have lots of knowledge, but a wide product portfolio. And the store next level, they don't have as much resources, but a wide product portfolio. So every part in this chain has very different possibilities. So we have to create the data so that we can adhere to everyone's needs. And the hardest thing with this is the versioning. For in a bicycle, for example, if you change maybe you buy rubber from another place for the tire, and then we change the version of this bicycle also, because then it's different substances in the complete bicycle. So it's very hard to know that this bicycle, it was manufacturing for 20 years ago. What was restricted then? What source of rubber did they use for the tires? So it's a very complex question. In the car industry, there are something built for, it's called the IMDS. That is the closest thing that we're looking to. But I think that with open data and different thinking, we can solve this.
Fantastic. This is terrific. It's really exciting to see, Dan, that you're using the platform in multiple ways, Apex in multiple ways, to bring out all these innovative applications for the, I would say, environmental good, for the human good, because now we know what dangerous chemicals are in our day-to-day products, especially when you go to the workplace. A lot of times you're unaware of that, but this really helps the companies stay on top of it, and as a consumer as well, you can go and take a look at it and see what's harmful. So I really want to thank you for sharing your journey, sharing your application with us. And I want to wish you all the best. And thank you once again for joining us today on this episode of Business Innovations with Apex series. Before we leave, we may want to just once again tell our viewers how they can access these applications with Kemdb.
Yeah, and one more thing also I want to say, because I've been working with Apex for so long, and for me, I want really to find some way in giving back. I really appreciate the community and the company in the company main company. It's hard for me to, with a small company, to do something significant back to you. So this is my try, and I'm not used to talking like this, so it's a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I really wanted to give something back, so I have to try.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dan. And then in terms of how does a customer get to use that application with Kemdb? Do they just go to kemdb.com and sign up for a free account?
Yes.
And then they can get access to all of the products that you showed us today?
Yes, and right now it is Swedish, Norwegian mainly, some Finnish, but mainly Swedish and Norwegian. So the purpose, because the national regulation, so every one of these PDF files needs to be in the language that they are used in. So the Swedish and Norwegian mainly.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, thank you once again. And if you're interested in learning more about Apex, please go to apex.oracle.com. To get all the latest news about Apex and all the documentation about the product as well. So with that, thank you very much for joining us today. Till next time. Thank you.
Thank you.